DE Canals, or Canals, is one of the strangest maps Valve has ever put into Counter-Strike. It's not anyone's favorite map, it's probably not anyone's least favorite map either, it's just strange. It looks, moves, and plays differently than any other map we've ever been exposed to. For one, it gave Counter-Strike something most maps never really have tried before, and that's a real sense of place. The map takes place in Venice, Italy, and it's not just a loose version of Venice, but rather a one-to-one recreation. Of course, there are some creative liberties taken, but it's not just a bunch of different canals and bridges thrown together, it's a recreation of one of the most recognizable parts of Venice, St. Mark's Square. Now, we'll get to St. Mark in a second, but just one look at the map Canals and you could see plenty of historic and storied places. Doge's Palace, the Bridge of Sighs, the Campanile, and the Basilica. Now, the architecture in DE Canals and, of course, Venice, it does set a mood. And at the center of this is their most storied and prized symbol, the Lion of St. Mark. And that symbol, that symbolism, provides us with a wealth of information that can explain not only just the art style and creative direction of this map, but later the skin collection that was released after the map was taken out of the competitive pool. And at the top of that collection is one of the rarest and most sought after AWPs in the game, the Prince. A sniper that bleeds luxury just by looking at it, but it does carry a symbol that reaches far, far back, way before Counter-Strike was even a thought. But before the skin starts to make sense, the map, the location also has to make sense. So let's dive deep. Canals was added to CSGO in March 2017, a bomb defusal map that was built in-house by Valve. Now that alone already makes it a tad unusual. Most of Counter-Strike's identity and most well-known maps come from the community directly. Dust 2, Mirage, Cache, and although Valve incorporates and cooperates with the community makers of these maps, Canals had zero outside influence. Up until this point, their main focus was Overpass and making that competitively viable, but unlike Overpass, Canals seemed to have a different end goal. The designer, Ika Karinen, had already made the map DE_Piranesi for Counter-Strike many years before. So while the map and setting seemed like a natural progression for Karinen, and while the odd sight lines that were present in DE Piranesi were definitely present in Canals, Canals presented its own unique distinction, and that was the dichotomy of playstyles that was very obvious once playing the map just one time. You see, most Counter-Strike maps are not built around verticality, and most of their distances between you and the enemy focus on that middle distance. AKs, M4s, utility, that is sort of the rhythm people come to expect when playing a game of Counter-Strike, and Canals very obviously tries to break that rhythm. You do not get many normal fights, in fact, everything is an extreme. Go on the A site and you are immediately greeted by a long open lane dominated by sniper rifles and scoped weapons. Go towards B, however, and you are greeted by a winding circle of tight corridors, claustrophobic rooms, and cramped choke points. This side is asking for an AWP, and the other side is asking for a shotgun. And that's even reflected in the odd makeup of the collection itself. The AWP Prince and the Mag 7 Cinque Dea are very obviously different weapons, but they do encapsulate the identity of the map pretty well. And the rest of Venice, the history, the artwork, will serve as the design language for the weapons that accompany these two main weapons. Now, as we spoke about previously, Canals is not just set in Venice, it is set in the center of Venice, the area around St. Mark's Square. It uses some of the city's most famous landmarks as the foundation for the map and the bomb sites in which you play on. The Bridge of Sighs, the Doge's Palace, the list goes on and on. The Bridge of Sighs, which serves as the B bomb site in the map, is one of the most famous landmarks within St. Mark's Square. It's an enclosed, white bridge with stone windows, and it gets its name after the prisoners who would, in theory, sigh right before going to prison. The windows in the Bridge of Sighs would be their last view of Venice. Connecting to the bridge is the Doge's Palace, which was the old center of Venetian royalty. Venice wasn't just a pretty city, it was a republic, it was a naval power and a trade empire, and they knew how to communicate that with their architecture and art. Which is why Venice, and subsequently Canals, looks the way in which it does. Masterful stonework, statues, everything looks expensive. And you could see all of it at once from the bell tower. In Canals, this serves as a bomb site. It also serves as one of Venice's defining landmarks, the tallest building in the area. And if you go to Venice in real life and you look around, you'll see plenty of imagery regarding a seemingly random lion. It's even present in the map. But it is not random at all. It is Saint Mark, Venice's patron saint, and the symbol that has been attached to him, a winged lion. Of course, this also serves as the map logo or collection logo in Counter-Strike. But the Lion of St. Mark is not just a logo, it's one of the most important symbols in the history of Venice. If you look around, you'll see it on pretty much every building. You'll see it on flags, statues, military uniforms, emblems. It is part of their cultural identity, and for centuries, the winged lion represented the Republic of Venice. Now, if you pay attention closely, the lion is almost always depicted with a book under its paw. And on that book is a very specific phrase, Pax tibi Marce Evangelista meus. In English, peace be with you, Mark, my evangelist. Also, of course, the phrase that appears on the AWP, the prince. Not subtly either, it is the main subject of the gun itself, printed right across the skin on a scroll-like paper. And St. Mark is not just a Venetian mascot, it comes from something even older, of course, the Bible. The winged lion represents Mark the evangelist, and Mark is one of the four figures of the Tetramorph. Matthew is represented by the winged man, Mark by the lion, Luke the ox, and John the eagle. They appear in the Book of Revelation, and before that, the Book of Ezekiel. This was way before it was put on flags, before it was carved into stone, or before it defined Venice and St. Mark's Square. And certainly way before it was printed on an AWP. It was biblical imagery. The AWP, the prince, carries the entire lineage and history of not only Venice, but the Bible, and of course, Canals. And it deserves no other spot than to be at the top of the collection. Now, the Canals Collection was released after the map in 2019 with Operation Shattered Web, and it was finally removed from the matchmaking pool in 2018. So when Canals came out, it actually wasn't even an active map, only available in casual modes. Skins.com is the newest sponsor on our channel. They have just released a P2P trading platform looking to compete with the best players in the space. If you don't want to wait that long, they do have an insta-sell feature on the site in which the rates are the best I've seen, just straight up. When the market is down, everything is on sale. And with the deals you're getting on skins.com, you could start your position basically up 20 to 25%. Try out skins.com and be a part of the future of CS2 skin trading. So when Canals came out, it actually wasn't even an active map, only available in casual modes. But despite its faults, it still was a rather loved map in some weird way, so Valve preserved it as a skin collection. The collection contains 18 skins, at the top, of course, the AWP, the Prince, and below it, only one classified, the Mag 7 Cinque Dea. After these two skins, which were very obviously intentionally created, the rest of the collection spreads more outwards through decorative language that's reminiscent of the time period Venice, Baroque art, Murano glass, filigree, stained glass, mosaic work, and of course the top two. The Prince is the headliner. It's the only red in the collection. It's an AWP. It has the strongest visual identity out of any skin within the group. It's also, of course, the most reminiscent of the actual map. Anyone with historical knowledge will know that this is the Lion of St. Mark and the message he carries. But the second skin is just as intentional, the Mag 7 Cinque Dea. The Cinquedea was a Renaissance-era Italian blade, and its name comes directly from the term 5 fingers. And that references the broad width of the blade when you're holding it. It was a weapon typically used by civilians, a short sword or a long dagger, but its main purpose was a display object. Most surviving examples in the Met in New York City, for example, are ornate. They're engraved or gilded, decorated with crazy mythological scenes, something that you wouldn't use to kill somebody with, but rather have as a showpiece in your home. So what was originally designed to be violent turned into something ornamental, a canvas, if you will, and that kind of matches perfectly with the Mag 7, a very oddly shaped weapon, but a big, flat weapon, allowing for some designs that you wouldn't be able to put on many other shotguns in the game, like the Nova or the XM1014. The shotgun, of course, represents the short, close-range combat that defines Venice on the B side, and the AWP Prince is the A side, of course, with those long sight lines, perfect for a sniper or a scoped weapon. So while it may not be intentional, if it is purely coincidental, that's completely fine because it does encapsulate the map perfectly in the top 2 tiers of these weapons. And after the Prince and the Cinquedea, the rest of the collection becomes sort of more patternized, which is not atypical of most collections made by Valve. But the patterns themselves are built from crafting traditions that do define the era of Venice in which we're talking about. We'll start with the Baroque skins. You have the AK Baroque Purple, the P90 Baroque Red, the Nova Baroque Orange, and the Negev Baroque Sand. Baroque art is a little bit more dramatic. It's ornamental, it's highly emotional, big grand surfaces. It's not trying to be subtle. It's kind of trying to overwhelm you. And if you take a walk through St. Mark's Square in real life, you'll see very quickly that these skins do fit the aesthetics of Venice itself. Big, grand, super artistic ceilings. Venice is not a minimalist city by any stretch of the imagination. It's very decorated, it's very built and etched in history. The most subtle is the AK, which sort of looks like a sweater upon first glance from a distance, but as you get closer, you can see the tiny details that make up the Baroque pattern. Then you have the Murano skins. You have the AUG Navy Murano, the G3SG1 Violet Murano, and the Tech 9 Orange Murano. Now, Murano is a style of glasswork that's one of Venice's most famous crafting traditions. Glassmakers were even moved to the island of Murano, such as to not burn down the city, but so they cannot let out their trade secrets. And over time, Murano became a symbol of Venetian craft, and they created many, many new styles of glasswork that are still present today in modern luxury. And then you have the filigree skins, the P250, the Mac 10, and the Scout. Filigree skins are some of the most interesting in the collection. Filigree is typically a type of metalwork, and it's visible on the AWP Prince, characterized by thin strands of gold or silver that twist and curl and soldered into nice delicate little patterns. But while the name says filigree, the description says mille fleurs. I know I'm not saying that correctly, which directly translates to 1,000 flowers, and it's typically tied to tapestry, not necessarily metalwork. But we'll let it go because these are some of the best looking skins within the collection. And then you have 2 interesting ones just because seems to be a reused pattern, the MP9 stained glass and the Scar 20 stone mosaico. The MP9 is one of the better looking and most sought after skins within this collection. It features exactly that, a stained glass pattern, blue squares, and a few red and purplish squares that are scattered in between them. The Scar 20 stone mosaico is stone, so it has stone colors. What's interesting to me and what I found is that it seems to just take the pattern from the G3SG1 Demeter from the Bravo case, meaning that this was a reused skin from 6 years prior. Now, I didn't really go into detail, and I'm not confirming they reused it, but Valve is no stranger to reusing patterns. They do it on pretty much every collection. The resemblance is there. I'm pretty sure they did just take this one for one. Now, some of the skins in the collection don't need an art history lecture. They're very simple. Skins we've seen before, like the Dual Beretta's Emerald. We saw that with the Scar 20 already. The Candy Apple SG553, which is present on many skins within many collections, and the CZ75 Indigo. These ones are there to merely fill the pyramid that defines pretty much every collection within Counter-Strike. But even in a discontinued collection, all of them mean the same thing as far as value comes when you're not looking at aesthetic. We are, of course, in a pyramid when looking at a collection. So all of these non-aesthetic skins serve as probably the best fillers because they're typically the least aesthetically pleasing out of the entire collection. And these fillers matter because the Canals Collection was released with Operation Shattered Web. It was released alongside the Norse Collection and the St. Mark Collection, which at the time were the two preferable collections. So after the collection finished, around 4 to 5 months later, there was simply no way to get these skins besides trading them up. And when it was active, you still needed the operation and the pass in order to earn skins from these collections. Which is why it has some of the lowest supply you'll see in the game. I believe it's the lowest supply covert in the entire game. Plenty of times I've played with people who did not know it existed when I dropped it to them. And when people talk about elite AWP skins, the Prince is commonly left out. The Dragon Lore, the Medusa, the Gungnir, sometimes the Fade even gets its name in there before the Prince does. It's the lowest supplied AWP, for one. It's in one of the most rare collections and rare operations that were played by players. And it has a super strong historical background, more rooted in culture than any other skin in the game. But despite its cultural dominance, it does not dominate in terms of the skin ecosystem. It's still relatively expensive and appreciated by some collectors, but it's definitely less appreciated than it should be. Because when you take into account everything, the map, the lore, the history of the city, the biblical history that the skin builds upon and the map builds upon, Canals failed because it did not feel like normal CS. It was too open, it was too cramped, it was way too strange for any normal player to willingly enjoy. But that quirk made it a bit of a beautiful map. Fittingly, so does the collection in terms of where it sits among the many other collections in Counter-Strike. The skins are niche, not only because of supply, but because of taste. But if you've never paid attention to it, I suggest you do, because it's rooted in history, it's rooted in beauty, and it's one of the best collections in the game, in my opinion. If you look past the operation, if you look past the map, the Canals Collection is the only collection of skins in the game that could take you backwards through centuries of art and religion, history and politics, just by the skins in the collection. And that is why skins are beautiful.